Morning, everyone. Everyone hear me? I'm not accustomed to using a microphone. I'm normally one to scream and shout during a presentation and a demonstration, but in order to be recorded, I've been told I should wear this thing, so bear with me if I scream your ears out at some point during this presentation. My name is Doug Winnig. I'm the founder and the president of Software Secure. With me on my left is Steve Toy. Steve's the vice president of sales, and he's going to help run this crazy configuration we have set up. I am here this morning to talk to you, to introduce to you Software Secure. Many of you know Software Secure and what we do in testing. I'd like to reintroduce Software Secure to you people and also to the people that don't know us yet and talk about what we've been doing with a lot of our other educational markets in terms of assisting faculty with using technology in the classroom, which is clearly an issue which has now finally come to the forefront here for law schools, as I understand it. So we're excited to share with you what we've been doing in high schools and colleges and medical programs and business schools throughout the world. And hopefully you'll find that it's a useful way to address a real issue. And we also look forward to your feedback in terms of how we can better support the particular issues each of your schools face. So I'd like to start just by talking about the company a little bit, primarily so you can understand how we have tackled this particular issue, as well as all of our other issues. Our mission is to facilitate the responsible incorporation of technology in the learning process. That's a pretty noble mission, don't you think? Our philosophy is to support the needs of our users with the specific design so as not to force change, not to give you new software to learn, not to increase the workload of faculty who now have to incorporate new products. What we try to do with everything we do is look to see what schools are using and provide solutions around them to make them easier to use in the classroom or in the exam room. How do we do that? Well, that's what I was just talking about. We take the technology that everyone's using and we make sure it's easy to use. How do we get it to the students? How can students use it quickly? How can faculty use it with students quickly? And we do it by removing the barriers. Particularly with Software Secure, our focus has been twofold. One is, well, with technology, there are two primary issues involving using technology as part of learning. One is cheating, and the other is what we call digital distraction. So most of you know all about our secure exam products for cheating. You're going to learn about our Classmate product. Where we are today, we've been doing this for 5 years. As I mentioned, in a bunch of different markets. We work with actually about 200 satisfied clients, or at least I hope most of the ones that are here today would say they're satisfied, in rolling out a suite of products that address all of these issues surrounding technology. So again, what do you know about us? Secure Exam Student is the product schools use to enable students to write exams or to do spreadsheet analysis in exams outside of the law school market, all with security around it. Again, our functionality is always around taking what tools students are comfortable using and removing the barriers. So when it comes to exam taking software, we use Microsoft Word or Excel. Secure Exam Management System is the web-based system we use to help schools administer take-home exams. What you might not know about us is what we're going to talk about today, or at least the last part. But you're going to hear about us in a couple of years because you guys are going to get to the next part, Secure Exam Browser. Secure Exam Browser is used in all the other educational markets we support, where faculty are using course management tools, Blackboard, WebCT, eCollege, WebAssign, Twent, to administer either drill and kill quizzes or in those classes that support an objective type of exam, multiple choice, true, false, multiple choice. And we provide a security wrapper around that. But what we're really going to talk to you today about is Classmate, which provides the instructor the ability to control how students can use their computers in the classroom. Okay. So why don't we just talk about what the issue is, and then we can talk about how we address it. Today's students. Most people say, yeah, they're the product of the digital age. They're the download generation. I never really understand what these things mean until someone talks to me about what kids do in class. So what do they do in class? They type class notes, and they're good at it. And they're more comfortable typing class notes than they are writing class notes. And that's a great thing. They also search their own notes for answers to questions or access databases. So they're using their computers to help themselves prepare in class real time. These are great things. They also occasionally IM their classmates, asking why they're not in class and why they're sitting in class. Okay, that happens. It's kind of like passing notes. They check on the local sports scores. Now it's kind of getting annoying, right? I mean, I'm from Boston, so I love my sports. But the time for checking my sports scores is not necessarily in the middle of torts. They shop at Amazon.com for bad music. Not the right place for it. I mean, literally, we're finding in institutions that students have better access to the internet and broadband in the class than they do outside of the class. And so you have students actually coming into class to do this stuff. What else do? They buy stock. What else do? They check out the latest Britney Spears video. And they play video games. The last two are the most important, actually. And the reason is because you're always going to have students that aren't focused on a lecture at hand. And we're going to get into it today with respect to, is that really a problem? Is it the problem of the teacher or is it the problem of the students? But the truth is, when you get to these last two, it no longer impacts just that one particular student. It impacts everyone around you. I'm the kind of person that actually, Steve, 10 minutes ago, told me I spelt Britney wrong, and we had to change it. Because I don't really care about Britney Spears. But if I'm sitting in a class and a row ahead of me, there's a Britney Spears video going up, I promise you that's what I'm going to be focused on. And that's the problem that we're now seeing, that faculty are now facing. Onward. Thanks. Okay, so what can you do? I'm going to give you a range of options now, before anyone jumps at me. And by the way, please feel free to interrupt me. I'm going to give you an overview of what we do, how we address the issue, why we do it that way, and then finally, I'll show it to you. So we'll have plenty of time at the end to talk about things that you want to talk about. But for now, I'm going to give you a range of options that schools are considering as they talk to us. The first one is they just shut down notebooks. And that's happening in tons of schools, especially before they learn that there are potential technical solutions to aid the faculty member. They say, enough, I'm done with this. They shut the laptop. And obviously, that eliminates all of the positive attributes of a computer in learning, just as it actually eliminates the distractions. Option number two is, well, you accept it. You say it's the responsibility of the teacher. You say, this is just evolution, right? When I was in law school, I swear to God, there was someone in front of every class before the faculty member came in that handed out copies of crossword puzzles. Never really understood that. But I also thought crossword puzzles made me feel stupid because I could never complete them. But there are a lot of faculty that say this is just the next step. You know, people can still focus, they can multitask. But I bring you back to the Britney Spears video and the video games. It distracts people all around them. A crossword puzzle, fine, you have your head down and you're writing. When you have video images flashing, you're grabbing the attention of other people. And that's a real problem. And the third one, of course, no surprise to any of you, is to come work with us. And we hope the reason you come work with us is because what Classmate does, while we often use words like control and lockdown and limit, all of those words are used to describe this solution. That solution is we help faculty learn how to teach with technology. All right, so what does Classmate do that you're about to see? It locks down the computer, and it always, first and foremost, provides access to Microsoft Word as the default word processor, and the student can always get to it, and it can always be up on their screen. It also enables the faculty to control whether or not the students have access to anything else on their desktop. With respect to this conversation, that can eliminate game playing. It also enables the faculty to determine when the students have access to the internet at all. What does that mean? That means you can't IM. You can't do any kind of instant messaging or emailing or general web surfing, but we'll get to web surfing in a second. While you are in your computer for writing, and while the faculty is determining what level of openness you have to other computing tools and the network, you do have other functionality that helps in the class. You can send and receive messages from the students to the faculty member. So those students that are uncomfortable raising their hand or raising a topic or answering a question can provide insight electronically. Faculty can also use Classmate to administer polls and take a real-time guesstimate as to are the students comprehending where the lecture is, where the faculty wants them to be. And then as the faculty learn or desire to use web-based content or the internet, they can push down specific content on the internet to each student's computers. So they can push down specific sites. The faculty can also control where they go on the internet. So send them to particular sites and lock down where they go outside of there. All right. So for those of you that have schools using Secure Exam Student, our writing testing software program, you'll understand this concept for us. Classmate's been designed to appeal to every level of technical sophistication. That means if your interest is to do one thing and one thing only, which is get rid of IM, it's a right-click, choose one thing, and you're done. But if you want to be sending your students to the SEC to look at guidance opinions or to look at a particular financial statement to look at something or anything on the internet, you can send them there and know that they're focused on the task at hand. So you use it as you want to use it. So the examples we put here are you can choose when they're on the network. You can choose which particular sites they go to. Or you can use the interactive tools of messaging and survey. Or, quite frankly, instead of using this to address an entire class, you can say you are off the internet and just click off. So it's completely up to the faculty member to see how they need to use technology to assist them in dealing with all the technology around them as they're teaching. Okay. Benefits of Classmate. I'm going to identify 3 specific groups that benefit from this. Obviously, students benefit from it because in many cases, without something like Classmate, they're going to be told to turn off their computers. Then you have the teachers that don't want to use any computers in teaching at all. Well, they can just leave what we call default Classmate on, which is providing students with the access they need, which is to their word processor for taking notes, and lock everything else out, and not learn how to incorporate other tools if they feel that's not necessary for them to get their point across or that it doesn't help them teach. And lastly, those teachers that want to use computers in teaching, that are eager to incorporate web tools or other applications to help their students learn, can do it in a gradual way. They can incorporate the technology without losing the student's focus. And they can do it on their own time, and without the pressure of the students constantly pushing them to the next level. All right, enough already. I'll show it to you. The way Classmate is set up, there are 2 different applications, which is why we have 2 screens here. I know all of you were wondering, what is this crazy guy doing? The faculty has on their computer this application called Software Secure Assistant. So it would sit in the front of the room. I'm the student, he's the instructor. That's a very scary thing for me. Okay, so I just walked in my class, I double-clicked on an icon that said Classmate, and I'm waiting for my professor to tell me what the IP address is for this particular computer because that's how we communicate. That's the highest level of technical sophistication a faculty member has to learn. .208.191.35. Now, as you can see on the top of Assistant, it says IP address, and it gives it. Now, no matter what computer you're on, if you double-click on Assistant, you're going to see an IP address, and you can give it to your class. That's all you need to know to be able to communicate with all of your students. Now, so I logged in, or Steve logged in for me, and now the teacher can see this. Yeah? Yeah, 2 things. It's client-side software. Every student's got to have it on their computer, and we're going to talk about that. And yeah, they have to log into it. And you know they logged in because if you've got 30 people in your class, at the top it says num 30, and you're going to see 30 names. All right? Yeah. They could be in their home computer logging on. Yeah. It's generally not used that way. There are some schools that use Classmate for distance learning. Yeah. Sorry. If they don't log in, the faculty member should know that they don't log in. If it's a really big class, you're going to have 2 things happen. You're going to have other people say, John sits next to me. He's surfing the net. I can't do it. Or he's still distracting me. And it's going to come to everyone's attention. It's not, Classmate is not a solution that when you double click it, it controls all your problems. I would never admit that. You're still going to have issues, and that's one of them. Students have to log on. Why? Because we control the client environment. But everyone gets accustomed to it. We have many faculty members that say, Classmate is how I take attendance. You've got to come to class. It's part of your grade. That's my record of it. When I close that down, I keep a file of it. Well, no, absolutely. And a lot of the law schools that are looking at Classmate right now don't. And the way that most faculty are hoping to deal with this issue is if you have a computer in class, you're going to sit in the first 5 rows. I look down, I see 15 people. I should see 15 names and the number 15. It's absolutely not a perfect system unless everyone's got it. No doubt about it. But it's going to solve 99.9% of your issues. I hope. If not, just scream at me. You do. At the very end of the demonstration, when we close this, it asks if you want to save a history file. If you could just highlight my name. Oh, you did. Within that file, you will see that I logged in, who I am, where I am in the process, and this keeps an actual record of everything that happened during that class session, including things like, and I'm going to answer a couple other questions in a second. Now, let me switch gears for a second and come back to you. This is what the student sees. This is our version of a secure Internet Explorer. Customized so you can't see where you are at the bottom and you can't really move around at the top. But obviously, as I advertised, I have access to Microsoft Word and I can take notes and I can put that in the background if I want, which I'm going to do. But that's all I have. I don't have anything else. I'm hitting Alt-Tab, nothing. Control-Alt-Delete, nothing. I'm stuck here. If I reboot, I'm going back here. Okay? And you're going to capture it. You're always going to know whether or not the student's still connected. And if my connection's broken, it's going to say its status broken. And then it's going to say reconnected. And if not, it's going to be flashing so the faculty member can always say, you're off. You know, log back in. Yep. It does not support WordPerfect. It's only Microsoft Word. Absolutely. Fortunately for us, and the reason why it's Microsoft Word, most of your students are Word-oriented. You have half and half? Really? It's funny. Our secure exam student application, our testing software, is Microsoft Word-based, and I chose that when we first started because we did a lot of research and found that 95% of the educational market was Word, blah, blah, blah. And as I said, I don't want to teach anything else. I don't want to say I've got a proprietary system. I don't care if it looks the same. I want the students to use what they want. So when I first got out in the market, in the law school market, many of you guys said, no, we're a WordPerfect shop, WordPerfect shop. A year later, you've got 85, 87, 90% penetration of secure exam student with Word. So, but it is an issue. We don't support it. We have no plans on supporting it in the near term. And, you should know that. Why can't I get access to that? They're stored on the teacher's client side. I logged in. I typed it in. Yeah. And if you use a course management tool, we can actually pull it from that. Right now, it's an open system. Okay, so I sent a message to Steve. There's a little box up top saying that I sent a message to Steve. He replies, because you're locked down. And you get a record of that message. Now, the very first thing teachers ever said when we showed them the software is, I don't want to see 70 messages sent to my screen when I'm in the middle of a lecture. You said that you're trying to make my life easier, and I'm not going to have to deal with all this stuff. Steve right-clicked my name, and he's now showing you every single option that faculty have. Those options that they can choose to use or not choose to use. This last one says show messages, which means it pops up on the screen. If he unclicks it and I send a message, he doesn't see it. But he sees there is a message. and he can grab that after class. And it's saved on his client, and he can log back in and send you a response. It will be in the fall. We're currently working with Apple to switch over to support Mac. We've been supporting Windows for the last 5 years. Okay, so anything else? I'm sorry. Yeah, way too many. No, it's all of them. It's default. And it's a good point, though. If I had 30 students, didn't bring enough hardware, you can either highlight one student to do any of the selections or all of them and do all those functionalities. Yep. I can't. Tell me how. Yeah. You're using an Apple? No. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Yeah. Word's open. I can open files, but I can't open apps. It's frozen up. Yeah. Yeah, we've provided, and we can show you this stuff, we've provided locks on anything that would lock you out, anything that would pop you out, kind of like we do in Student. You know, just like you guys know when you use it. Yeah. Yeah, we only block it down here because there's nothing, it's blank. We show the domain that we send, which we're going to do in a second. But they can't get to anything outside of that domain, and they're not shown what that is. There are a number of schools that use Classmate also for testing. And they don't want the students to be able to go back to an area to look where they got certain content for their test. Okay, so right-click on my name. So I'm going to just fly through some of this functionality. What I'd like you to do, Steve, is send a survey. So at this point, as you can see, the faculty member can just create a question with a couple answers. At the top right-hand side, you see it says load, save, send, or close. I'm going to have Steve say send. But the load and save means you can pre-format poll questions and save them to your client so you don't have to type in the middle of class. So if I'm providing a lecture in some topic, and I know 3/4 of the way through the class that I want all the students to understand this one point, I can format a poll that's going to demonstrate to me whether or not they get it. So on the student side, it says, do you understand? Yes, no, maybe. I'd kind of like to add another one, which is not yet, but hopefully by the end of the presentation, everyone will. Here, real time, he gets all the results. Obviously, if there were 50 people, you'd see a count that added up to 50, and you'd see where it was on this bar chart. And again, this can be saved so you can keep a record of your students' awareness during a given point in time. So as a faculty member, you can go back and say, you know, did I actually teach this in the right order or the right way? Did they comprehend what I wanted them to do? So you can close that out. That is anonymous. Yeah. And if you want to know what a particular student knows, you can send them an individual message, or you can do it the old-fashioned way and call on them. Yeah. So right-click on that. Okay. You can use the Internet as a teaching tool. You can always use the Internet as a teaching tool. You don't need Classmate for that. But for those faculty members that are afraid, go right ahead and go crazy. For those faculty members that feel like they've lost control, in the sense that students aren't either following on or they're using this opportunity to go somewhere else, Classmate enables them to sort of regain control. I'm going to say this 10, 15, 20 times during the day. Don't get me wrong, I'm not defensive. I honestly believe this. Classmate should not be used 100% of the time in a given class. It's used to help teachers take technology and change the way they teach, to help them use it the way they want to and get comfortable with it. It's not something they need to use all the time. Steve pushed CNN.com to me. I now have access to CNN. So I can look at, that's not what I want to look at. That's the wrong thing to look at. I can go to any area within the site of CNN, but I can't go outside. So I can't click on ads. I can't go to anything that would redirect me to a different domain. But I can go anywhere here. So next time, just push software secure. Do a little bit of a plug for me. OK, now, hit about. When a faculty member wants to now go back to a lecture and doesn't want them to continue to click on, they can do a number of things. What Steve's did up here is he right-clicked, if you could do that for me on my name, hit push new URL, and we created a blank. And that blank, about, will blank out the screen. Okay? What you also see there is it keeps a history of all the links you used. And you can pre-populate that too. So again, not a lot of typing. It's just point, click, push. Okay. Now, exactly. You just highlight all. Yeah. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to enable my desktop. As you can see, that browser took up my whole screen. I couldn't get anywhere else. Okay. When the instructor hits enable desktop, Classmate's now minimized, and I can get behind it and get any tools I want. When is that used? That's used generally when a faculty member wants to provide students access to something that they want to project to the class. Like, John, you've got a PowerPoint presentation. Why don't you go grab it? Or, I think you had a presentation about this particular case. Why don't you go grab it? Or, I don't need to lock you out of your games anymore. I'm going to let you have access to your games. So, for me, I can now minimize this. And I can, open a PowerPoint presentation if I wanted. That would be confusing, so let's play. Now, what we can do on the instructor side is right-click. So obviously, I now have access to my desktop. I'm going to minimize that. What I don't have, right, now I see the teacher just let me get to my desktop. Great. I'm going to open a browser. And I'm going to go to my mail server. Well, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to Google. Well, no, I'm not. So I have access to my desktop, but I don't have access to my network. So Steve's going to be a nice guy, and he's now going to give me access to my network. Again, why? Either because the faculty member no longer needs that level of control, or two, because they want the students to be able to go out and grab something. OK, so he enabled my desktop. I'm now up again. Okay? Right-click. Okay. Default Classmate. All right, so what I have open is a browser to Google, free search, free open, a PowerPoint presentation, Classmate, and my Word documents. Steve just hit Default Classmate. Default Classmate brings you back to where you started. Default Classmate is, I need your attention again. Default Classmate is, all you're doing at this point is you're taking notes. So as you saw, my browser shut down. My PowerPoint shut down. My Classmate popped back up, and my notes are back. Okay? So with literally a point of the mouse, the faculty member can make sure that students are paying attention to what they want to be paying attention to. Okay. Two other things. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yep. Okay, more functionality. So, again, this tool, yes? There's no area in which they can type anything. Yes. The only thing they can toggle to is Word. Exactly right. Yes. Minimize that. Put up a browser. Absolutely. Absolutely. And most faculty just put it down here. Because the reality is, it's not like a faculty member is going to sit behind a computer like Steve is today and right-click, do this, right-click. They're going to hit three things, right? They're going to put you in default Classmate. They're going to push a website. They're going to talk about it. And then they may do the two other interactive things you can do with Classmate, which is you can turn the teacher's computer into a whiteboard and push down to the student's screen whatever the teacher has. Or they can use it to distribute files, right? Here's a recent opinion I want us all to look at. I want you all to have it. Here it is. It's a great way to ensure that everyone's getting the same thing. So, file download. You right-click. It goes to file download. It's giving them a warning, and just go right ahead. I'll talk through it, that when you do a file download, obviously the student's network is being enabled. So if you care about that, after the download, disable the network again. So what Steve's doing is he chose, there are two things to do when you're doing a file download. You first choose a network path you're going to use. Again, point and click. Go to your network. You need to have a shared drive. It's the only technical requirement. You point to a shared drive. You identify the file you want, and you hit file download. And it pops up on my screen. Kind of slow because we don't love the network. Well, that was pretty quick. So, or if you want to pass a test down that way, that's a good way of doing it too. Good thinking. We never forget about our testing routes. And this student can change the document all they want and save it to their own client. So I'm just going to save it to my desktop. And they can't make any changes to your original document. They can't change the document and save it back to the network. It's just a way for teachers, professors, to distribute material and know that the students all got what they wanted, if they want to use it in class. And the same feature applies, I'm going to shut this down, to whiteboard. So why don't we just show that with a browser. Bring me back into a default. So I now want to push whatever's on my screen. I just right-click, select whiteboard, and then I'm going to minimize my assistant. Now, assistant now knows that if I hit F11 as a teacher, whatever's on my screen is going to go to the student's screen. So, again, it's another way for the faculty member to use technology to show the students what they want the students to see. And it's really quick and it's really easy, which is all we care about. Why don't you default Classmate? Now, whiteboard is pushing an image. It's exactly right. It's taking a screenshot of what's on the teacher's computer. It's just pushing a JPEG. So you're not going to have bandwidth issues. They're all very small files. And the websites were just pushing URLs. You will have no bandwidth issues with Classmate. The only issue you'll have is if the faculty are pushing big files. It's the only time they're ever pushing anything down. But for the most part, they're Word documents. Yeah?
What are you doing on the...
Well, we're hoping you guys are dealing with that.
No, I'm saying...
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you know, everything interacts with all the virus protection software. But there's no virus protection software built in. Yeah.
So you're not shutting them down?
No.
And if they're running with fire?
There are certain firewalls that require us to alter some settings, but their firewalls can stay up. Yeah.
So then do you...
Yes.
So you have that service.
Right.
So do you have
You do in Classmate. We haven't thought about using Classmate for faculty evaluation, although since the very first day I ever talked to the law school community, people talked to me about faculty evaluation. What we will be doing in the next 7 months is adding a feature within our secure exam management system. That's our hosted website that schools use to post up take-home exams and pull them back down. A feature that will enable schools to post surveys the students are required to fill out, if that's your policy, before they can upload exams. And that's the way we would do it. And it would be as anonymous as the exams going up. It's more like an exam process. That's not what we thought of doing with Classmate, although not a bad idea. Yeah? No. That's all, as long as you can get an IP address, yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. They can. They can, actually. Just the opposite. I'm glad you mentioned it because I should have. We have a bunch of professors, I don't know why, at Seton Hall, that use Classmate to do group exercises, and they ask them to go out and do research, and then when the students claim they have the right thing, if you right-click on here, we have an option called Student View, which does the exact opposite as Whiteboard. It grabs the student's screen, puts it on the teacher's screen, and they can broadcast that. Yeah. Well, Control-Alt-Delete is active, but you can't get to the task manager. What about it? I bet they could. No, they're stuck in the sense that they can't do anything other than close it down, right? So, but that's all they do. Yeah. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. Classmate, our pricing model depends on the enrollment of the school. So from 0 to 400, 400 to 7, 7 and up. It's correct me if I'm wrong about this, 2,750, 5,000, 7,000. Well, our goal is to get everyone to use it. If you already know that there are particular groups of faculty that want to use it and you need to see that it works well, we will support trials with you. But our goal is, it's not a very expensive application. Our goal is to get everyone to use it, and it requires a bit of a cross-investment. It requires you guys to say, this is something that we want to provide to our faculty. It's of value. So we try to limit the number of very small trials, but we definitely consider it. Yeah. As we do with our secure exam testing software, we have Vmware Checks, which look to see if you have VMware loaded, and if so, they say you can't use it. Same thing. Yeah, yeah. There are a number of schools that have asked us not to use that for VMware for a variety of reasons. Primarily because it makes the application a little bit bigger, and they just figure it's more complicated, and there's some messages. Some students don't realize they have VMware, and if students are using VMware in the class, everyone else is going to know about it. But yeah, we had to deal with the testing software, so it was easy for us to add it into Classmate. Yep. No. No. I mean, our goal is to have it available to every faculty member that thinks they need it. So, yeah. Yep. Right.
Some individuals who have
Well, it's no different than if they were to do that without Classmate. But my guess is you might have problems without Classmate pushing that size file. If you don't, you're fine. The only time we have issues with networking is when a school has set up a wireless environment that really doesn't support, the capacity in this room is 140. I don't know if this room supports 140 people pinging the network all at the same time, and they may not have tested it that way because they didn't actually expect it to be used that way. University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, there's a film instructor that has, 180 students watching films using Classmate to be able to take notes, not surf the net, then access certain movie feeds. And they have great networks, but they never tested it for real use. So there are times where you'll roll out Classmate and say, okay, we're not ready. But we test it with you. Yeah? With respect to what you saw today, no. You have to push the websites specifically. And you can preload them, which makes it a little bit easier. One solution that all of our undergraduate institutions do, and some of our graduate programs, although not many law schools, is if your school has a course management tool, you can, as a faculty member, create an electronic lesson plan. So if, for instance, you use Blackboard, you could, in your class, in your course notes, you can create a June 18th lesson plan, which includes links, because we permit external links out of a course management tool. And so you know they're going to follow you that way, and you can see what they're doing. Yeah? You still have to push it. Right-click. Oh, sorry. There it is. Right. You can preload surveys. Yep. You can't, as of now, preload messages. Yes. Well, right now, the version you see, you have to be logged in to do it. But what we're releasing in the fall that we now have is you can use a little applet to create whatever things you want to store. And those two things are URLs and Classmate polls. And you don't have to have another student logged in. It's just going to attach to this particular assistant. Now, the only bad part about that, and I hate to admit they're bad parts, but I run a software company, is you have to delete them if you teach two different classes, because you're probably going to be using a laptop with your assistant. You're going to have all this presets. But it's a point and click, and it goes back in. The only bad thing I'm admitting today. No law schools have purchased this software. We've got about 6 that are currently evaluating it. Yeah. You got me on that one.
You can see in Assistant IP address right next to Doug's name.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. There are 2 ways to set this up. You can either choose an IP, or we can pre-config if you know what it's going to be and you don't want to broadcast it. We do that for lab environments, and you can just select where you are in the location. Are you in Lab 1? Are you in Class 606? And you never have to use an IP for that. I'm sorry. Right. Right. Yes. We've had both. Shock of shocks. We've had a lot of faculty members that found this to be the perfect solution for eliminating web surfing. And that's all they use it for. That's it. And then we have faculty members that say, this is too complicated. And we say, it's a point and right click. And they say, yeah, I understand. It's too complicated. We had a lot of faculty members years ago that said, Students are going to use their computers to take exams. It's too complicated. It's, well, you don't have to do anything. Sometimes it takes time. So the answer to your question is yes and yes. We've had both. And what has been really encouraging for us is we've had a number of schools that have used this for a couple of years. The speed with which faculty members start using other attributes of Classmate once they get into it is fun. And it's fun for the students. Yep. For Classmate, at least once a year. There are optional updates. This is 2.06. It's been out 3 years. But just so you understand, I'll give you a little bit of a history lesson on Classmate, if I can remember. Secure Exam Browser is the product that we designed to enable schools that were doing web-based testing to do it in a secure environment. It's the browser you saw, but it goes directly to whatever web-based tools schools use. As more and more schools found students bringing laptops into their class, and as more faculty members were encouraging it, they started to discover what you guys are now, mostly with wireless, which is, wow, I'm kind of losing control, or I'm not getting the focus I need them to get, or I'm nervous about using technology knowing they know more than I do. And so they said, but this browser thing that locks up our test, that's great. Can you lock up anything else? So for the first version of Classmate literally just pushed URLs. That's all it did. It just went, I want to use this website. I want it locked down. And we went to all of our schools and said, what else do you want? And they said, I really want to be able to message. Okay. What else? Polling. And this is what we've done with Secure Exam Student. It's what we've done with Secure Exam Management. Every 6 months, we check in with every single user group that we have, and we say, what else can we add? And then we take that list and we broadcast it. And if it moves other markets, we add it in. So once a year, you're going to get an update. Whether or not you use it, that's up to you. What else can I tell you about Classmate? Oh, sorry. What happens if you rename the Word exe to go to Internet Explorer? It won't launch. Nothing will launch. I knew it wouldn't launch in Student. I wasn't sure about Classmate, but you're right. It won't launch. Okay. I closed down the student side. I now get to be the teacher again. So I hit close for Software Secure Assistant. It asked me if I want to save a classroom history and messages. I hit yes. It asked me where I want to save them. I want to save them to the desktop. Yes. CALI demo. Okay. I now have 2 files, top left-hand side. The first one shows me the history file of everywhere I went. It's a lot of information. It's not useful to many people, but some people it's very useful to. Okay? Because if you tell a student, here's the legal issue, I want 6 different arguments, go, and have them use the internet, you can actually go back and see where people went. It's a TXT file, so you can manipulate it any way you want. Okay. Second little side benefit. We have a separate file that stores the messages. So when I go back to my room, to my office, and I realize that I turned off show messages, and I'm going to go look to see what people sent me, and I see Doug Winnig sent me, I hate you, I know what to do. I don't know what it is really, but something. And so, again, these are just tools that we've found faculty we're looking for to make using technology a comfortable experience and a beneficial experience for their students. We have a couple minutes left, and I've showed you everything there is to show you about Classmate. So tell me what else you need to know. Yes, in back. Right. Right. Yeah. The good news is for us, while we use many of the same locking features in Classmate as we do in Secure Exam Student, it isn't quite as locked down, so there aren't as many questions about whether or not certain things will be in conflict with other things. So the issues that we've seen are very simple. They are things like my Explorer was corrupted. The number one issue has been networking issues. Does the room actually support 60 students hitting the same click at the exact same time? Once that's solved, that's really been about it. Other technical issues. User error. That's it. Faculty members not understanding how to get to a shared directory in order to download files, right? And that it has to be a shared directory. That's a big one. But that has been it. Right. Right. Well, let's walk through it a little bit so you understand the whole process. It's definitely going to entail some work because they're going to have to install the software. So let's start there. So what school are you with? I'm sorry, Vanderbilt. You license our software. We provide you the software. You decide how you're going to distribute it, just like our exam software. You can put it on your intranet. You can have students come to us. You can burn CDs. You can do it on a class-by-class basis. So what Software Secure does is we give you the asset, the software. You figure out the best way for your organization to distribute it. Likely, for something like Classmate, you're only going to distribute to the students of those faculty that you know how to use the product. That means your first support area is making sure faculty know how to use it. Now, easy to use, but you're probably going to be the one to help out. You call us, and we help you do that process. But there's the first part. Second part is the installation. It's very simple, right? It's a very small application, but you got to make it available to them. The third part is when it's actually being used. We haven't found support. For instance, we don't get calls from IT groups or directly from students. That's not where the issue is. The issue is the faculty doesn't understand how it's either going to work or should be working. It's just a question of functionality. Is it working the right way? That will be a little bit too, but that's initial training. But in terms of technical support, you're not going to see that much. Well, most of them I can't tell you about, although it's been a fantastic week of development for us. I got to say, supporting Apple platform is very exciting for us. And to be 100% honest, we aren't doing it, or we would not have done it if we only serviced the law school community, because there aren't enough Macs out there for us. But there are so many schools, so many high schools that are Mac environments that we really have to do it. But that's pretty exciting because there's so many schools that have been working with us for years and have said, I got these 10 students that really want to use Secure Exam, so we can support them. That's great. With the Classmate, to be honest, we've got some fun applications that we're working on to provide more access to a tool for faculty to create lesson plans, to help them gather learning objects and create electronic lesson plans that they can feed through Assistant. We're ready to go with it, and I'm not releasing it because I don't want to confuse the initial users. The initial users are going to be intimidated just by what you saw, right? We're looking for two groups of faculty members, those that want to turn the network off and those that want to use some technology. In a year or two, we'll roll out the good stuff. But that's where our focus is. It's helping faculty members incorporate electronic tools and have it go through Assistant so they can help students focus on what they want them focused on. Yes, I'm sorry. It's an annual renewable fee. A what installation? Yes. Right. We haven't seen it, but I'm sure they're out there. In terms of the security we use, we do require patch updates. We recommend it. We often push them down. And I don't mean automatically, but to the IT group, we provide a very simple sheet for students to go through and click on automatic updates. In terms of version, we haven't any issues with particular versions. But as you know, it's always wise to keep your Windows updated. Right. Yeah. Actually, and that's another feature that we're working on, is having that automatically detect where the student's laptop computer is. For instance, for our testing software, Secure Exam Student, for all bar examiners who are using it this year, they first have to run a little applet on a web server that tells us exactly what version of Windows they have, what patch, where they are with their updates, have they run virus protection, and then recommend, not do it automatically, but recommend. We're going to make that automatic within Classmate to detect those things during certain given periods of time. Good. Well, I thank you. I encourage you guys all to go down the hall and visit with Steve, myself, Doug, or my other sales guy, Peter Biggs, who's also here. We can walk you through demonstrations, and you can pick up material here at the front of the room. And love to talk to you guys about anything that you didn't want to talk about in public. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your show.